Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Bikini and the Brain podcast. My name is Ashley Kaltwasser, hair flip, and I'm here with Adam Bonilla from TeamElitePhysique.com, and we had a super special holiday-themed episode for you guys today. There is this holiday coming up. I don't know if you know. I don't know if they know, but it's a pretty big holiday in the States, so we got to be prepared.
Is it Valentine's Day?
Close, very close.
Christmas, so
Christmas
and New Year's.
And New Year's and all the other related holidays around this time.
Yes. Well, so I actually thought it'd be a good idea to basically preemptively strike and give you guys some tips to carry you through the holidays. I mean, and also you could apply it to, birthdays and whatnot. And,
absolutely.
New Year's and all that. But Ashley is pretty much the queen of the diet hacks in terms of coming up with new ways to make food taste good and also sticking to it, which I think is the most important part. Just sticking to your diet as much as you do. You've really gotten good at that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to think so.
Yeah.
I like to think so. Yes.
So what are your tips, Ashley?
So when we think of the holiday season, especially in the winter time, we think of friends, family get-togethers, fireplaces, and food. Lots of food, especially since we're coming off of Thanksgiving and now we're into December and looking forward to Christmas. And I think a lot of times people will base their whole, holiday season or event around food. But, I think there's so much more to a celebration than only the food. Of course, it's an important part, but it's not everything, right? It should be about friends, family, and spending time with the ones you love. But with that being said, we're not dumb. We know you guys want to celebrate, and maybe we want to celebrate too. And we realize it's not realistic to stay on diet for a lot of times for people that are, if they have a weight loss goal in mind. We're being realistic, and we're not expecting everyone to eat chicken and broccoli on Christmas. Some will. I will. Some will. But let's be honest. There's a lot of us that aren't. And that's okay, because we can navigate through this day, still make healthy choices, and not have too much of a backlash from it. Because I know that there are some, there are some people on the other side of things that says, don't count calories on Christmas. You should never do that. Spend time with friends, family, and all that, and indulge. And I agree. You definitely should enjoy yourself. But the main point would be not to overdo it and not to make it last longer than a day, I think, is the key.
Yeah. And I think just going into the day with the right mindset of being controlled too is going to be...
And being prepared.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because here's the thing, and we're both in unique situations, and as I've gotten more years as being a coach, I've learned that it is harder than it is for both of us, right? And I'm around you more than anyone, and that's the example I see of current competitor, and I'm like, no, just be perfect. Why can't you guys just be perfect? And it's like, oh, that's a pretty high bar. And then I grew up basically dieting starting at 12 years old, and then I wrestled and I played weight-related sports and stuff, so it was like, yeah, for me, dieting's not hard either, so I'm like, I went many Christmases, many holidays, many birthdays with just having chicken breasts or turkey breasts, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, it was like, oh, cool, turkey breast today. That was the thing, and that was it. And I'll get one roll for my carbs, and then that would be it. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. But my family understood. They didn't force it, because I was just that kid that always watched his stuff, mm-hmm. It was like, but now as I've gotten older, I'm like, yeah, most people didn't grow up like that. Most people don't have that setting where they can just turn the switch on, and then it's just perfect,
Right.
And so I understand it more now. So now, as I've been coaching more and more and more, I can relate to people better than I used to. And the one thing that really was good for me was taking time off of gym because of an injury. Mm-hmm. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. I had a small injury from playing hockey in my shoulder. It kept me out of the gym for about 6 months. That was the only time in my life I didn't work out. And I only needed to not work out for 3 months, but I gave it an extra 3 months. Not really because I wanted to, it was because I was lazy, mm-hmm. And I couldn't get my mind back into it. And my mind also went that way with nutrition. And so I basically got to start just like everyone else would start again. And I've never been in that position. And I realized, man, it is really hard to like get going in the gym and be motivated to actually go to the gym and to create a habit out of it, where it's like, now if I don't go, it's like, oh my gosh, I feel sloppy because I didn't go. And now it's like, if I eat really bad, I feel terrible, you know? Like I actually had I have cheat meals once a week, and I had a big cheat meal, not a big cheat meal, but it was even like a cauliflower crust pizza. That's like my cheat meal. I even had that, and I was like, I don't need to be going that bad at it. Like it made me feel gross for like a day. But I realized that's not like a normal thing, you know? Yeah. So now it's like, okay, how do we take the normal person and kind of just create a way where they feel like they're not sacrificing? Because now I know it's really freaking hard, you know? Yeah. And I don't know if you went through that when you took your break. Did you go through like that adjustment period, or did you just turn
There was an adjustment period for sure. And I truly believe I've retrained my taste buds to kind of crave foods that are healthy. But, you know, that took a long time. But there was that adjustment period of like, oh man, I'm hungry, I'm craving, and I want something other than chicken and broccoli or whatever. So, you know, I think it definitely takes time, and definitely takes time to cook things in a certain way where you like it and figure that out. But I realized just for the average person, you know, we're not expecting you to be just like us, right? Because we already know we're kind of weird. We're kind of weird, okay, honestly. So I can definitely relate, though, to people that are just trying to get by, you know, trying to get by in a healthy way. And we're not one of those Christmas Grinches that will say not to enjoy Christmas. Don't enjoy any food. Don't enjoy Christmas. Stick with 100%. But at the same time, we don't want you to go willy-nilly in a downward spiral. Yeah. So I think like talking through this podcast, you'll pick up some tips that like hopefully at least put you on the right track and sets you up to enjoy your food and your event without feeling the guilt afterward, right? Yeah. We don't want you to feel guilty for enjoying a few treats and all that.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue. And the stat was the average American between, gosh, was it Thanksgiving, that's right. Thanksgiving is the start, it's the catalyst day. So between Thanksgiving and January 2nd, the average American gained 6 point something. It was like 6.4 pounds or something like that. 6 point something pounds, 6.4, 6.1. I was like, man, that's crazy. Like the average American, that's like a pound a week basically, you know, throughout that time period. But it makes sense. There's 3 big parties with, you know, takeaways each day, you know, and you're eating it ongoing. And I think that's one of the first tips you can do is, you know, don't take anything home. You know, if you're hosting parties, give it to everyone who doesn't care about the fitness.
Yeah, that's one of the things. You know, you can freeze it too. Yeah. Definitely freeze your food, give it away. But if it lingers in your house, those leftovers can get to you. They can definitely get to you. Like, that's for sure. No doubt about it. Out of sight, out of mind. And you'd be surprised how many things you can actually freeze. You know, and just bring it out later or, you know, at a better time and, you know, whatever you got to do. But I think that's a great tip. You know, but even before that, I think the day of your event or your dinner, you know what? I would say this, start the day off right with a workout, okay? And I would say first thing in the morning. I mean, I'm a morning person for sure, but even I feel like that sets the tone for the entire day, right? Even if it has to be a home workout, right? Even if the gyms are closed on Christmas, whatever, even an at-home workout is better than nothing. And I feel like even for your mindset, it sets you up to think like, okay, I'm not gonna go crazy tonight when I eat, right? It's like, sets the tone for the entire day. Got the workout done, feel accomplished, kind of just, you know, getting that regular everyday routine.
Yeah, now I wanna go on a step back and then go into that too for a second, but on the freezing foods, that was actually a really good tip. For the contest prep people in here, the freezing of foods is a really, really good tip. This is kind of outside of the holidays, but one of the things that I found with clients in general, and maybe it's because I work with mostly female clients, but it seems to be very highly on the female side, is nut butters and problems with sticking to their amount of nut butters. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is. I'm really easily, I can measure 1 tablespoon and I don't even look at the other one. When, what was the company that was sending us those nut butters for American nut butter? okay, if you guys, shout out to American Nut Butter, because their stuff is crazy good. This is not a paid advertisement or anything like that. They have the craziest peanut butters, and they sent me like a box from like, I don't know, a year and a half ago. And I was able to eat just one, but they were in my office and they kept disappearing, like empty tubs. And I was like, okay, either I'm losing consciousness or someone's coming in my office and eating them all. Finally, the culprit admitted to they were, bought me some more nut butters. But it's like a thing.
It wasn't me.
No, it wasn't Ashley. It wasn't Ashley. There was a lot of people at CPC Denver.
Actually, what he had to do was he hired a private investigator and they did fingerprint analysis.
Yes.
And we set up cameras.
Yes.
And basically, we came to the conclusion, and we found the culprit. Yes.
Yes, we put.
And they have been identified and since punished.
Yes, and they'll be getting out in 6 months with good behavior. So peanut butter jail. So there's a lot of other people in there too. We even put a fan behind an open jar, blowing it through the gym and the ventilation system. So what I found is people who struggle with nut butters, which is really, really common. Let's say you have, because we do this thing we call it fat with carbs, where we give people like a fat with carbs. There's like a pure fats, which would be like oils and coconut oil and things like that. And then there's fat with carbs, which is basically fats that have some carbs in them, and we'll identify them like avocado, nut butters, nuts, things like that. So if you have, let's say, 3 servings or 2 servings of fat with carbs a day, well, I found that that's the biggest thing people would mess up on, is that they just eat too much nut butter. So I had a client who would get those packets, and what she would do is she'd throw all of her packets in the freezer because she couldn't eat them the day of. You have to like really put effort into it to thaw them out. So she would throw them in the freezer, and then for the night before her day, she'd take one out, put it on the counter, and then that one would be good enough to eat for that day. So it was like, that was a good control thing. Some people need that,
Yeah.
So if you need that, that's a good tip.
Absolutely. I used to do that, but put him in Hugo's trunk of his car, or I put him in the garage, out of sight, out of mind. I have to like think about it and literally make effort to go and get it, right? But same thing with the freezer and freezing it. That's smart, and I do that too. But there's a lot of things you can freeze, and you'd be surprised. Sometimes when I go and I go to the clearance aisle, and I'm like, I know I can't have this now, but it's such a good deal. So I'll buy it, and then I'll cook it, and then I'll put it in the freezer, or whatever the case may be. But
Ashley's the queen of the clearance aisle.
Yes, and by the way, with the leftovers, guys, like I said, we either freeze it or we give it away, but we do not waste. We do not waste food around here. Okay, let me make that clear. We're not going to throw anything away.
Ashley is also the queen of the not wasting food.
Yes, and clearance. But even on the clearance, nothing goes to waste in my house.
When Ashley first started coming over to my house, I realized it, and I'd have like chicken like sitting in my refrigerator, and it was like close to the expiration date. And then I'd go to the gym, work my normal work day, and she'd be at the house still. It'd all be cooked it'd all be cooked. And I was like, well, that's really nice. She like cooked my chicken. She'd be like, Adam, you only have a day to eat that, and you have to eat it because an animal had to die for that.
Yeah.
I was like, and then I started thinking, yeah, you're right. And so I would then from then on, when Ashley would come over, I would always make sure all my food was eaten. I didn't have anything wasted. It was pretty funny because I started thinking about that now. The animal has to die for that food. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you better eat it. You can't waste it. That's really sad if you wasted that.
It is sad. We can't be wasting food.
No, and I'm not a big vegan guy, but in a someone's dying for your food, you better you should eat it. I think that's right. If something is dying for your food,
agreed.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the working out the day of. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I used to do, when I was younger, when I didn't have a gym, I would work out on Christmas Day every day too, and I would always like that. It was always my okay, I could have a real good workout and I could feed myself a little bit more later type of thing. And I would eat like a little bit more protein or whatever, but I never go crazy since I was a kid, really. And I would always make sure that day I could do at home. So I would like kind of schedule my week that week where I could do shoulders at home, or I could do arms, because I didn't need much to do shoulders or arms at home, just some dumbbells and you're fine. Mm-hmm. So I actually didn't have dumbbells back then, and I would use my mom's dining chairs because they had like little, they had little handles in them. So I'd just do like lateral raises, put the chair behind me, do shoulder presses.
It's better than nothing.
Front raises. It was fine. It was like my dining chair workout. My mom, she was like, oh, he's just takes the chairs on Christmas Day.
Right, yeah.
The gym was closed.
I like that. Even if it's just for mental purposes, like you're in your routine again, I think that's super helpful just to set up the tone for the day,
Yeah.
And I'll even go a step further for those extreme people out there, the crazy people out there. You know what I used to do on Christmas Day? used to run a 10K race on Christmas Day. What's up? Because a lot of times they'll have Christmas themed races. I don't think they have any in Vegas though, but in LA I ran Christmas themed races on Christmas Day. In Ohio, I've done that before too. Ran in a freaking blizzard and everything.
Dang, really?
On Christmas Day, yeah. And I would do the same thing for Thanksgiving too.
Yeah, they all have turkey trots everywhere.
Turkey trots, yeah. It's a great way to start the day. I mean, what can you say? If the gyms are closed, maybe there's a race out there.
I wonder if there is one in Vegas. It's a little cold for Vegas.
You want to run it?
I wouldn't, but
it's a little cold for Vegas.
Well, for Las Vegans. Well, I got to figure that out. For Vegas people.
Yeah.
I think it's a little cold because we're not used to this.
Yeah, we're not used to it, but at the same time, it's not like dangerous.
Yesterday was so cold; it was 44. I was like, it's funny. It's in Colorado. I'd walk around 44 with a t-shirt, no problem. And now I've gotten so used to the weather now. I'm like, I'm freezing cold.
Yeah.
So
How do you think I felt in Europe? I was like, what the heck is
this?
Man. But for real, it's nice to get out and just get that done with, and just start the day off right.
Yeah. So anyway, going into the next thing, Ashley, you got good tips here. I'm reading. Oh, yeah. Ashley's the best at this stuff.
Oh yeah. Do not skip meals is next.
The tips, and then so there's. Go ahead and go with that one, Ash.
Sure. So the day of your dinner, I would suggest you not skip meals, all right? I think a lot of people think that they're like, well, since I'm going to have a big meal anyway, I got to save all my calories. But I think it works against you, honestly. You're kind of sabotaging yourself because what happens is you get hungry because you haven't been eating all day, okay? And then you overeat at dinner and fill up on foods that maybe aren't the best. Whereas if you kind of just eat your normal meals throughout the day, by the time dinner comes, you're not going to be like starving to the point of, binging on this one meal, which is typically a calorie-dense meal. So I would suggest throughout the day, you just kind of stick with your regular diet. If you eat oats and egg whites for breakfast, keep it, and then chicken, vegetables, or whatever else, your normal diet, keep with it. Don't try to stock up on calories and just save it all for dinner, because I feel like most people backfire.
Okay. Yeah, there's like, I guess two thoughts of on that one, right? There's like two sides of it. And I don't think, I agree that your argument is you're going to eat a smaller portion if you just stick to the diet all the way through the day. And I think that that's right, because I think if you're going into it starving, you might make worse decisions,
Right. But if you got a good self-control and you know your body and you're used to fasting, maybe. But I would say more likely than not, if you starve yourself, when it comes to dinner, you're really going to go overboard.
Yeah. And then there's the other thought process that is, because I get both. I get both people who are just like, on it 100%, and then they don't mess up at all on Christmas. And then I get people who want that freedom. They want the freedom. So for the people who like need the freedom and want the freedom, because this is what I wouldn't want is someone to do all of their, let's say they do 5 meals a day, 7 meals a day, whatever. I wouldn't want someone to do all 5 of their meals and then go to dinner and then do an extra big meal because you couldn't control yourself. Because that's worse than just doing, just your proteins that day and then a big meal, or just 3 meals that day with your big meal. So just kind of identify who you are. If you think you get to the meal and a 4-ounce piece of meat and veggies and 30 carbs or whatever it is not Christmas to you, and you're going to go farther than that, well then be kind of mindful of that. And in that scenario, I do think, skipping meal number 2 and meal number 4 and then adding meal number 5, so you add 2, 4, and 5 together, and then that be your big meal. Mm-hmm. That won't affect your results. So however we're talking about here, the results won't change in between either, whether you eat 3 times a day or 10 times a day. There's really very nominal difference between those two eaters. True. The post-workout is a variable that doesn't go into that. But with your normal day and how you eat your food, so if you're like, okay, I just need to be part of the family and eat a big portion, and if you're doing 4 ounces and you skip 3 meals, well, you got 12 ounces of meat you can eat there. That's going to fill you up. So how I say is, if you're going to, either way, however you think you should do it. But I would say that your way is definitely more controllable, like in terms of appetite control.
Well, I also would mention as well, I guess it depends on what time your dinner is, right? So if your dinner's at 8 p.m., I also wouldn't say eat 5 meals already and then have a big one. But if it's like, maybe 3 o'clock or whatever, I think you can better plan that out and then just kind of go from there. But yeah, I think that's true. You got to identify what kind of person you are and how hungry you think you're going to be. Can you control it, or are you one of those people that is tempted way too easy? But I think the key would just to be plan ahead, regardless of, even if you're that person or you're a person that can control a little bit better, just make the plan to do so, right? Planning ahead is key.
Yeah. So the other thing too is like let your family know ahead of time. Like tell your family that you're getting ready for a show, or you're really being health conscious this year. I mean, I don't know if it's just because I did it for so long, but my family would always make sure that I'd have my stuff. It was really nice of them. They'd be like, okay, they'd make this little bowl of mashed potatoes, and they'd make a big bowl of mashed potatoes for everyone else. They'd be like, oh, those ones are Adam's. There's no butter in them. Like, and now, now that I'm older, I can recognize it. I'm like, that was really cool. That took probably a lot of effort to do that. Back then, I was a little crap, and I was just like, oh, thanks. I didn't even take any like mindfulness into how it took extra effort. I would just eat it like it was very normal,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, your family would be happy to do that. And sometimes what I found is that with contest prep people, like in contest prep families, that it kind of like creates conversation at the table too. But also they end up liking it. They're like, you know what? It's actually not that bad with that butter. Maybe I'll just do it like this from now on. Or they'll do things like that, and it like kind of switches it for them. And so everyone wants to eat healthy. No one doesn't want to. No, I don't think anyone doesn't want to eat healthy. I think there's very few people in this world that prefer not to eat healthy. The only problem is in this world, people put taste in front of health, which to me is like crazy. But we're in that weird scenario. I was like, my order goes in order of importance. It goes like. Look, of course, it's super, it's not the best. It goes like abs, being lean, like sex appeal basically is number 1. Health is number 2, and then taste is number 3. But everyone else is like taste, then it might go health, and then it goes like looks, right? But for the American, everyone else probably in America would probably go taste, looks, then health. I don't know. But anyway, once you can change that order of things, I feel like it becomes a lot easier too. And so I think if you kind of do that and you can help your family, like, yeah, I'm eating really healthy, and they make something different for you, it might help them, it might give them something. They might hate it. But for the most part, I think most people are like, oh, that's not that bad. Because diet food really isn't bad.
Yeah.
It's just like,
oh, yeah. And we're going to talk about that later on in the podcast too, because it's one of the points on there. But I agree. I think like a lot of times we get our priorities all switched up. But, with that being said, if it's a day, that's where it gets tricky. You never want to be too strict on the day, the one day you can have it. But we just got to keep in mind the self-control. So even if it is, potatoes with butter, just keep in mind like, okay, this is a more calorie-dense item. Maybe not have a whole bowl full, maybe just like a small little portion, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's just, being aware of what foods possess what calories and how dense in calories that food is, because especially when you're cooking and or somebody else is cooking it for you, you don't know exactly the macros of it, so you just kind of have to have some of like a little bit of a guesswork in there, right? But we can taste, we can see for the most part how dense in calories an item may be, or if it has empty calories or whatever. But I think another good thing to keep in mind on days we're having big meals or whatever is stay hydrated. I think like a lot of times you get lazy with fluids, and then once you are a little bit dehydrated, sometimes your brain doesn't even know, like, is it hunger or is it thirst? Sometimes you can't tell the difference. But I think just keeping hydrated kind of keeps you a little fuller to begin with, and especially if you're about to have a big meal, I always say have a few glasses of like water or Crystal Light before that big meal. That way you don't overeat and your body kind of fills up with something else other than just calorie-dense food, right? So I think that's something to be very mindful of, is like your fluid consumption the day of this event, Yeah.
And that's a really good point too, especially when I do these little tricks when I go to like all you can eat places and whatnot with people out here in Vegas or you know, friends out here. So water, huge, helps you with satiety for sure. Another one is when you're at the dinner table is eating your vegetables first. So eating like a big salad first. Like if you know you're not in the right mindset going to the dinner and you know that you're like, oh, that pumpkin pie looks good or whatever, having a big salad with maybe even like a calorie-free dressing that day would be a really, really good way to kind of get that hunger down a little bit going into the next meal. I do that so I went to all you can eat sushi. There's this place called Ono Sushi, ONO, if you're in Vegas. It's actually a pretty good little spot. I go there often with people. I went with, actually me and Anya went yesterday. And we just went, and then they have a sashimi, like limited things that you can get that are sashimi, so there's no rice in them. Like you can get only one of those, but you can get like unlimited sushi type of thing. There's like 4 things they have that are no rice, like a cucumber roll, you can only get like one of those. And so I always order those first, and so I'm just eating protein, and it's like small portions. And then I get that and the edamame beans, and then like by the time I get to the sushi, which is super rice like dense, like a roll's like most rolls are about 70 grams of carbs. If you guys don't know, like the full roll, like if they do the right like big roll, it's like 70 grams of carbs. I think it's like 65 or something like that. And it's like surprising because people all you can eat will eat like 3 of those. I'm like, dude, you just ate like 200 carbs, so crazy. And so that gets me to the point where I do like 1 roll and I'm full, you know, because I get those sashimi things and I eat a higher protein, and then it's like actually like a realistic meal. Still a little high in carbs, but not nothing crazy. And so that's just a good tip, you know, maybe eat your vegetables and your proteins first, and then if you're combining some meals, and you have all of your salad, and then you have, let's say you combined 3 meals, but then you have 12 ounces of protein, and you're not even full for the other things. Like you don't even want to eat much of them. So yeah.
Another thing I would add is like when you are eating, like be slow and mindful of your eating. Take your time, don't rush. I think like a lot of times our taste buds are a little slower to respond than our stomach, if that makes sense. So what I mean by that is we'll feel full, but our taste buds want more, you know? So although we don't realize it and we're not paying attention, we're just eating and eating because it tastes good. Our taste buds are like, yeah, this is great, give me more. But in all reality, we're like actually like full. But there's like just a little delay with the taste buds and the stomach. Stomach says, no, we're good, we're full, you don't need more. Taste buds are like, no, give me more, I want it. And then, you know, a thing I would like suggest as well to kind of shut off those messages coming from the taste buds that say, hey, I want more. You know, I would suggest you can brush your teeth once you know you're full, and even chew minty gum, that can help as well. Kind of shuts off the need for more food from the taste buds, because if you have something minty in your mouth, you probably won't want to have, you know, a boat of mashed potatoes and gravy after that, because it'll taste weird, right? And you're just like kind of just cleanses your palate in a way, I feel like.
You're really good at that. That's the one thing with Ashley, and I've been hanging out with Ashley for years now. Every meal we've ever had together, I've seen her pull out her little dental floss. It's like a little dental floss pick, gum, whatever. Every meal, and I'm like, it's such a habit of yours that you're so good at it. I
will say, I'm getting a little carried away with the sugar-free gum, though, Adam.
Are you?
It's bad. I'm about a pack a day right now.
Really? Well, pack a day
of sugar-free gum.
You know what I saw the other day? I saw cigarettes in a vending machine.
Really?
Yeah.
Do they ID you? What the heck is that?
It was at Ellis Island Casino, but there was kids going into the diner, and it's right by the door.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's not good.
No, they have Ellis Island's another Vegas like secret spot. You know what's funny is I go on, this is like a non-podcast related thing too, but I go on YouTube and I watch like Vegas, like these guys that like tour Vegas and do like 10 best things, 10 hidden things and whatever. Ellis Island has like this steak and eggs, and it's like a top sirloin steak, which is pretty lean. It's like a 10-ounce steak for like $13 with like eggs, and I'm like, I'll go try it. And I went there, and it was like this fun little like locals casino, and they had good steak. Yeah, but I saw these cigarette vending machine. I was like, this is crazy. There's a cigarette vending machine, like a functional cigarette vending machine here.
Oh man, they need to replace that with sugar-free gum.
I hate how casinos let smoke here still. It's right. It's so for a niche, like a small amount of people that make a small amount of people happy, and everyone else miserable.
You know what? I will say, like, I've walked into restaurants that we're allowing people to smoke or whatever. And I think it's because I'm so not used to it. I walked right back out. I couldn't even handle it. I'm like, oh, no one's like actively smoking right now, but the whole place just smells so bad. I'm like, I don't even have an appetite. And I just left. And I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate, but I can't.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. It's funny. I was playing cards. Like, I don't know, it was a while ago. I was playing blackjack at a casino, and this guy sat next to me, and he started lighting up a cigarette, and he was a nice guy. And he like starts lighting. He goes, "Oh, do you mind?" And I'm like, "Of course I mind." I'm like, "Everyone minds." I'm like, "No one doesn't mind, but you're allowed to do it. So thanks for asking, but you're gonna do it anyway. So just go for it." And he's like, "Yeah." It was like, "Yeah, dude, no." He's like, "You think?" And I was like, "Dude, no one wants someone smoking next to them. Like that's not smoking. Like it's just common. Like it's common knowledge, man. It's nice that you're concerned." And we're laughing about the conversation. I'm like, but it's funny that you would ask because like, yeah, I totally mind. Your smoke's gonna come right in my face, of course. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. Well,
that's pretty funny. We wanted an honest answer, right?
Kind of tried.
Sometimes I like skills in public when people like ask a question. I'll tell them the real answer, but they're not the best because it caught him very off guard. It was pretty funny.
Oh gosh.
But it was funny. We ended up being friends the whole time.
Right. No, you're good with that. And then everyone wants to be your friend. You're so cool. So cool. But with that being said, when it comes to like hydration and stuff, I mean, let's also be honest while we're kind of on the topic. Sometimes with these events, alcoholic drinks are there, okay? And I assume everyone listening is an adult. Hopefully over 21, I don't know. But,
They do alcohol at your Christmases? Did they do them at yours?
At my Christmases? What are you talking
with your family and stuff?
No.
Okay, I didn't.
Not my family.
Mine either. Okay, I was like, because I don't know.
But we're weird. Listen, we're weird. Yes.
Because culturally, I wasn't sure if it was like a culture thing.
No.
Because my family is like Hispanic, so I wasn't sure if that was like a thing. Well, maybe it was just my family.
Oh, I think even if it's not a family, like even a holiday party, I would assume most would.
Okay.
Like let's say a work party, it's going to be there.
Work parties, I've seen that. Yeah.
It's there. So, this is another scenario. Is like, do we endorse it? No, but we realize it's going to happen anyway, right? So if you're going to do it, then I might as well tell you there's some healthier options you can do for it. I would say, if you want like one of those fruity, girly drinks, you can do like a vodka soda water and Mio or vodka water and Mio, the little squirty things. Yeah, that's good, or a dry wine.
The Mio is the squirt like water flavors. That's how I drink most of my water, with the Mio flavoring. I love that stuff. Yeah. It's the only way I can get my hydration in, or otherwise I'll drink Diet Cokes, Yeah. What's a dry wine?
You're asking the wrong person.
Oh, but it's lower calorie though?
Lower calorie because it's less sugar, it's dry.
But is that what dry means? Less sugar?
Yeah, in a sense. Like, makes you go...
Oh, really?
Kind of bitter, yeah.
It's like a diet wine. That's cool.
Yeah, if there was one, I guess. But typically sweeter wines would have more sugar, whereas dry would have a lot less. And I am far from a wine expert, so I couldn't tell you what exactly the wines are. But for those of you who are, will probably already know, and feel free to comment it in the comment section below, a good dry, lower calorie wine.
Yeah,
asking the wrong people.
Yeah, but I know that most people that want to drink, I would say that the vodka with
the Mio or Crystal Light.
Yeah,
Mio.
is the like most common go-to. It's like 70 calories a shot. Is that what the accurate?
Yeah, typically there's 70 calories per 1 ounce shot of vodka or any liquor that's not like flavored. So even though, I mean, if you want to go into it, how it's technically 70 calories, but at the same time, it's really not that great because your body takes priority with the alcohol and metabolizes it and kind of forgets about the nutrients that you're consuming. I don't know if you have much to say about that, but it's ultimately, I would say in summary, it's 70 calories, but it's the emptiest calories you could think of.
It's a very unique macronutrient. It's its own macronutrient, I can tell you that. So 4 calories per gram of carbs and protein, 9 calories per gram of fat, and alcohol has its own calorie. It's 7 calories per gram of alcohol. So it's a weird macronutrient that has its own weird variables in it, but not the most ideal macronutrient for sure. It would be on the bottom end of those 4. You know, it's not like a carb fat macro. You know, it's like it's alcohol. You know, so it's a weird you know thing. And so there's a lot of research that's been done on that. You guys can look it up on YouTube and how alcohol affects the body, alcohol calories affect the body, and how it's a whole nother podcast. You know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, not the most ideal. But obviously, people are going to be doing it, especially the work parties. So a couple shots of that with your thing, I think you're having a good time at too, right?
I mean, it depends on who you are. If I were to do it, if I have a half of one right at this point, I would be like, I'd be done.
I think the last time I've seen you drink, I think you had one drink in 2018 after the Mile High. Is that it? Because I remember Hugo was there.
Yeah.
And that was it. And he had like one. You didn't finish it.
No, I couldn't.
Yeah, I remember that.
I couldn't. I think I've since that time maybe had like 1.5.
Yeah.
It doesn't do much for me these days. Honestly, I would rather feel amazing the next day and just have an awesome workout. I don't know. Yeah. I feel like it zaps your endorphins the next day.
Do you?
Like, I feel like even if you don't go overboard, it kind of like, I don't know, the next day I just never feel, not that I feel bad, but the next day I'll feel maybe a little more lethargic or not as happy. I don't know.
Huh.
But it just doesn't do much for me.
Unfortunately, I have no expertise on it because I just don't drink, so I don't have any expertise on it.
True.
But I wish I had more experience because I know most people do. It's weird that we don't. Whenever I'm like, it's funny is whenever I'm like talking to someone or even if I'm like, you know, like dating someone new or something and they'll be like, oh, do you drink? I'm like, no, but don't feel weird drinking around me. Like I know I'm the weird one in that scenario. Like very, very abnormal for me not to drink. Very normal for you to drink. So
yeah.
But on that note, one of your tips is don't drink calories.
Yes.
Because that's where people mess up a lot.
Yes, yes, yes. Calories, man. Don't you just hate when you accidentally drink a full calorie Diet Coke and it's not Diet Coke because it's actually Coke?
Did you do it? You just did it, right?
I did it on the way home from freaking, from Spain. I did it by accident. It happened again. I was so mad at myself. I thought I was getting a Gatorade Zero because they look so similar. The white ones. It was a white one. And it was right next to the Zeros. And I picked it up and I was drinking the whole thing. And then I realized, oh, this is definitely full sugar Gatorade. And the funny thing is, I couldn't tell the difference. Not only that, I felt like it wasn't sweet enough, and I added my own stevia to it. I have the biggest sweet tooth.
You're really bad about the sweet stuff.
Yeah, so stevia is my friend. I even added stevia to the full sugar Gatorade.
That's crazy.
I know.
That should tell you like what level of sweetness you're at. She does a lot of sweetener.
I do. I do.
You do.
So it was a waste of calories.
Yeah, and it would have tasted exactly the same if it was sugar-free and you added your own stevia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I cannot taste the difference. I really cannot.
You know, the last time I did that was you caught it too, and it made me so mad. It made me mad too because I was like, I really liked them. It was in Japan, those coffee drinks, and you caught it, and I couldn't read it because it was all Japanese, the label, and it looked like each one was, it was like coffee with milk. And it looked like each one was like 35 calories or something. Yeah, I think it was like 35 calories. But in United States, it has like the total calories, you know, on the back. So 35, what it looked like. And I was like, oh, it's just coffee with a little bit of milk. That's fine. That's what it looked like. It was something little, but everything else was in Japanese. And then it was per milliliter. It was 35 calories. And that was like one of the servings. And there was like, it ended up being 300 calories. I remember that. It was like 290, 300 calories. And I was drinking a lot of those. I was drinking like 3 of those a day. And then it was like day 5 and I was like addicted to these at this point. I was like so sad to be leaving them. And then Ashley like looked, she goes, you realize there's like however many servings in this? It was like 8. It was something crazy. I was like, nah, I was so bummed about that. It was such a heartbreaking moment. I loved them so much, but I was like, I loved them because it was like pure sugar.
So sad. Yeah, it's tricky with those labels overseas. Yeah. You got to watch it. Like, I did that overseas too with the onions, but it's you have to do some math when it comes to those labels because you have to divide it by the amount on the can. It's a big mess. And then if you can't read what it says to begin with, it's tricky. Very tricky.
Stick to the food you know over there. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, you know what, too? This is actually... Can I move on to the recipe alteration?
Yes.
This is one of the good things, too. And I think this is good for, like, the family. And I'll link the video. But Sam and Courtney, they do, like, all these Tori does too. There's some of the elite coaches here, and you guys have already know Sam. But they do all these recipes, and Sam's been on this she's been on like a recipe run for what, 3 months now, where she's like doing all these crazy foods. She made this, I guess it's a pie. It's like a fitness kind of mod. I sent it out to everyone in like who follows me on the text messages, and it is amazing. Like, it was so good. Like, I would rather have that than like a pumpkin pie. I actually would prefer it in taste alone. But the macros, each piece, it was like 8 pieces, and each piece ended up being close to a like 1 bar is what it ended up being. So it was like really healthy in terms of what the breakdown was. Like 20 grams of protein and like 7 grams of carbs. And it was like, I was like, how is this even possible? This is so good. So I think that's a good thing for like the family to do, and like, oh, let's try this. And you know, you still have your pumpkin pie there for everyone else, but like, try it with your family, do it together, right? And then at dinner, have everyone try a piece, and then they'll be like, oh, actually, yeah, I should do this. This isn't even that bad.
It can be fun, right?
Yeah.
You can be a little mad scientist in the kitchen and make all these alterations, and some of them are easier than you think, you know? There's so many resources these days. Like you just said, Sam's channel is great for it, but you can look it up online and even try your own modifications, right? You can even like do things like swapping out white flour for almond flour, or sometimes a lot of people do unsweetened applesauce in replacement of some oils. Like, so it's like kind of fun in a way to kind of experiment and try these things. And, you know, even if you don't necessarily like it, now you know how to do it better next time, but it's a great way to just kind of experiment, and if it works out, then you got a healthier option, and maybe they'll like it even better like you do for the pie. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's just a really fun thing to do with the family.
Yeah,
and an
absolutely.
Educational thing too. Like, you can teach them like without being that person, you know, because that's the thing. You never want to like be in their face about them being having to be healthy, but you could like just give them some options that are, and it's like for you, but then they have that option, and then they're like, you know what, maybe I should be doing this, like, because it's not as big of a sacrifice as it was when I started dieting when I was 12 years old, you know, because back then it was like prepackaged like Metrics bars, which were like stuck to the wrapper, which was terrible. Those things were like little bricks of just, it almost reminds me of like an MRE. Like, you just have to get through it to survive, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, it was so bad back then. And now it's like, there's really no reason why you shouldn't be eating the healthier options, because they're like just as good and twice as sweet, and, you know, 0 calorie this and everything, you know, like, there's just so many things, you know? So
absolutely,
people just aren't exposed to it.
Yeah, and even if it's just like one ingredient you swap out, hey, you know, we're trying new things. And I think it's a lot of fun to kind of play around in the kitchen like that, so.
Yeah, so this is a fun one. Yeah. Hopefully it's helping some people.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm not sure how you feel about it, but in preparation for, you know, if you know you're going to be having more calories than normal on a certain day, you can, I mean, I would never tell people to restrict their calories throughout the week, because like I said, I think that kind of leads to overeating, but you can do some extra credit workouts. I think there's no harm in that, right? If you're like, you know what, well, I'm feeling good right now, I'm off of work, and I got this, you know, event to go to on Saturday, hey, get in an extra workout or a little extra cardio. There's no harm in that, just in preparation for the excess amount you might be experiencing. What do you think?
I don't think it's a bad idea as long as it's not too much cardio.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Cardio is the main one.
And it's going to be, let's be honest, it's going to be hard to out cardio a big meal.
Yeah, yeah. The only problem,
we don't want to be like yo-yoing, like to restrict and then kind of counteract it with cardio, but a few extra workouts, I think.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna, and I tell people
nice.
to do that already too. Like, if you're on like one of my workout programs and one day you're feeling good in the gym, you're like, I just feel great today. I got a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Like, add an extra exercise, you know?
Exactly.
Add some drop sets.
Or if you're even traveling, like knowing that like if I'm traveling on Friday, I better just get into two workouts, whatever, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, because I don't want to get up extra early to travel. So kind of the same concept as well, right?
Yeah, like today, for like 4 days right now, I'm taking my car they're doing something with the interior. And it's like 4-day process. So I'm like, I don't have a car, so I'm just going to go to the gym. I can't drive anywhere else.
Exactly.
So I worked out in the morning today, and then when I go back and work out at night, and I usually work out both muscles in the morning. So I'll do extra for like 4 days, and then I probably won't work out for like 2 days because I'm going to be all beat up when I get my car back. But I'll probably have a ton of errands to do.
I agree. But I also think it's helpful, like, you know, after your big meal or event, I would say sleep as much as possible after that. Like, allow your body time to digest it. Like, if you can sleep in, do it. And that way you can kind of wake up the next day and everything's all digested and you're ready to go. You know what I mean? So.
You know what? It's funny. I just told this to Anya. She slept in till like noon one day over the weekend, and she was like, "Yeah, I just like slept in till like noon."
Wow.
She's like, "So
Lucky.
She's like, I have a lot of calories still to eat." I'm like, "That's actually a really good dieting like way of like avoiding calories is like being by sleep." It's so funny. I was like, you naturally have like less meals available, so they have to be bigger because you're gonna go to bed in 10 hours. It's funny.
And it gives your body time to digest, especially if it's a big meal, because no one wants to wake up the next day still full, right?
Yeah.
That's not a good feeling.
I'd hate
but
that.
if you can sleep in and have your body time just to process all that, wake up and you're like, okay. Take a big old poop and then start your day.
So funny with that.
Big poop. Big old poop.
You're so gross.
That would be
You're so
ideal.
It's so weird.
I'm just being honest right now.
Girls don't poop. It's a
You're
lie.
right.
It's a
I'm just
myth.
kidding. Girls don't poop. It just evaporates.
100% a simulation of all nutrients.
Exactly.
Very efficient.
Super efficient.
Very efficient
highly
mammals.
efficient.
Out of all the mammalians out there, there's the most efficient ones.
Definitely.
Just pure nutrient absorption.
Yes.
Mainly in the glutes. Mainly in the glutes. All right, so.
Gives all to the glutes. So, like, I know we've discussed before too, like, it's not necessarily, just like we just mentioned, it's not really realistic to think that you can out cardio your meal, right? Depending on how many calories you went over. It's kind of hard to out cardio that. But what you can do is get an epic lift the next day, right? Yeah. So if you know you're in an excess amount of calories, you got a surplus going on, I say, hey, you might as well put those calories to some good use. Get in a good freaking leg workout the next day. You should have a lot of energy. You'd be stacked up on all your glycogens, all these calories going right to the booty, right, when you're training. So, I mean, I would say if you're going to train the next day, do a heavy lift, good lift. And of course you can do cardio too, but do not try to out cardio that big meal. It's probably not going to, it's probably going to take a marathon. Just get in some good lifts and call it a day.
Yeah, that's one of the things that Dr. Jacob Wilson will say too, like on post-workouts or on cheat days. He changed my mind on cheat days by saying, you know what, if someone's having a cheat meal, recommend it before they work out. Now, everyone always says, I want to go work out and then have the cheat meal. He's like, no, he's like, use that energy for the workout that day. Have a smashing workout for 2 days instead of just one day, like the next day. So, you know, in the scenario of Christmas dinner, obviously, you're probably not going to go work out after dinner, but the next day is a great point. You know, you can have a good workout the day of in the morning, and then you can have a really good workout the next day. But in your future cheat meals too, something to think about, you know, use that as energy for your later days, you know, for your later workout.
Absolutely. So. And would you also suggest people to kind of, in a way, maybe a few days following their big meal, maybe go lower in carb, lower in fat, maybe do more meat, veggie type meals? Or would you suggest them just get back onto their regular? Because we don't want to play the game where we're yo-yoing, right? Like restrict and then, I guess, big meal, restrict, big meal. It's not a healthy way to look at things, but I guess it also goes into what kind of mindset you have. Are you vulnerable to getting into this pattern of, you know, eat a lot, exercise a lot, restrict, and then repeat? Or are you like, you know what, I can handle a few days post big meal, maybe just, you know, lay off the carbs a little bit for the next 2 days and maybe substitute with more chicken and vegetable meals. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, and that's actually a good question because it brings up a lot, like a common question with like that it deserves a good answer to it. And the answer that I come up with for that, and it's been a long time kind of figuring out that part is the way that we look at time is different than the way that body looks at time, you know, and we have to really recognize that, you know, man created time. Okay. So all it was days with no time attached to it, but we created time based on, you know, how the earth moves and the sun goes up and sun goes down. Right. So, we created that, and we created it with our day and our time that we're awake and our sleep patterns and all that. So, but because we grew up with it and because we don't know anything other, we just think, oh, there's a day and each day is a thing. We're like, that's one day, that's one day, that's one day. And what I ate this day is different than this day, is different than this day. But you got to understand the body is not based on that. Your mind is based on day up, day down, but your body is on. It's on and then it's off and then you're dead. And that's it. It's on when you're born and then it's off when you die. That's it. So when we look at, okay, how should I be dieting on, like, let's say a calorie cycle, right? Well, you got to remember you're on the whole time. Yeah, you're sleeping, but it's just because it's a new day doesn't mean it's like a whole new thing. It's just your body is just being fed, not being fed, being fed, not being fed, and it's on the whole time. So the way I like to look at things is, and when I'm doing my programming too for clients, is I look at it as like a weekly deficit. Okay, if I'm doing a calorie cycle for this person and I'm doing 3 calorie days high, well, really it doesn't matter if I'm doing 3 high and like 4 low. I'm looking at the total weekly deficit that the 4 low creates.
Right.
You know, because, you know, you're on or you're off. You're on or you're off. That's it. So like it doesn't make that big of a difference. So if you were to take 3 days high and 4 days low, and you looked at the week of calorie deficit, or you just did all 7 days low, very similar. The only time I see big differences and why I do it too is that I'll have people who do, let's say, 3 leg days a week. Well, I'll give them more calories on those leg days so they can smash those leg days, hopefully burn more calories, right, on those leg days than if they had less calories, and then maybe even further the deficit even more, right? Which people don't think, oh, that's why it works, right? But you're on or you're off. You know, the calorie cycle thing makes very little difference in terms of the grand scheme of things, because we're talking about a total caloric deficit over the course of maybe a month, right?
Yes.
How many calories did your body use from fat over the course of a week, a month, a day, whatever. But it's not like you're on or you're off. So what I say is, yeah, you can do that. You can have, you know, a little bit higher calories that day and then go like protein only for a few days, because it's not going to make these dramatic effects on metabolism. And that's what we're always trying to like secure, is the metabolism being as elevated as possible. But there's studies being done, I don't think they've been published yet. They might be, it's been a while. They were being done in Florida where people were eating protein only for like 2-week periods, where they tested their metabolism at day 1 and then I think it was day 15, it might have been day 14, where there was no effect on metabolism. And these people only ate protein and a little bit of vegetables, and they ate basically 1 gram per pound. So you'd be eating whatever, 125 grams of protein a day, and that would be it. That's it, which is crazy, because that's, if you do the math on that, that's 500 calories, right? Plus some veggies, so let's say 600 calories. And showed no adaptation. So if you're worried about having a little bit lower calories one day after you have your high day and afraid of it, you know, affecting your metabolism, it shouldn't have that big of an effect. Can you make up for it? Should you be doing that? You know, that's a different argument.
Right.
But will it affect things negatively in terms of long-term metabolic output? Unlikely. So,
right. I'm thinking more of the mental aspect, getting in the habit of allowing yourself to, in a way, binge and then trying to make up for it in the next few days, I guess, is I find like a lot of girls, it's not the best habit to do, but I think, like, you know, it's okay to do if you recognize you're one of those people that can like tolerate it and be like, okay, it's just a higher calorie day, and then these are, if you look at it like that, like, okay, today's the higher calorie day, the next 2 days will be lower carb, lower fat days. If you kind of look at it like that and you're able to have that control, I think that's fine. But if you are one of those people that's just like, you know, it's going to become a habit, and then you're going to think in your mind like, oh, I can have this huge binge as long as the next few days are low calorie. We don't want to think like that, right? Yeah. So it's like a lot about knowing yourself and knowing how you think of things, and, you know, just be aware. Just be aware of it.
Yeah, and I would also say, if you're going to do that, go that route, which I don't think is a terrible route, is like during special days like that. I don't think that's terrible to just cut your carbs the next day and have your food, you know, and be somewhat conscious of it the day of. But don't do it the opposite way. Don't cut your carbs for like 3 days going into that big meal, because then you're going to eat way more than you would have should you have done it in reverse.
Right, yeah. So we'd want all of it to kind of happen afterwards. And,
correct.
You know, and just to reiterate what we said too, we don't really necessarily think cardio should make up for the meal either. I feel like it's almost impossible. You can keep it normal cardio like you always do, just to kind of get back into your schedule and your routine, but I would not try to out cardio that meal. You're gonna be a marathoner.
I think it was Steve Cook who did the YouTube video on like eating 10,000 calories and then cardioing off 10,000 calories. Oh. And I forget it's a funny video, because it was hard for him to eat it and it was like impossible for him to burn it off. Like impossible.
It's unfair world out there.
Yeah, it's just way too many calories to burn. It's just crazy.
Yeah, goodness. Goodness gracious. But I think, like, you know, in summary, I would say plan ahead, okay? Plan ahead. Know how your week will be structured around this. And I would also say get rid of that all or nothing mindset, right? Even if you didn't plan to eat as many calories as you did, don't beat yourself up for it, okay? Don't beat yourself up. It's not going to help. Just, you got to have that mindset of like, well, today's a new day. Let's start off fresh, right? Because I feel like sometimes that guilt can cause a bit of a downward spiral, which is not what we're trying to do, right? And I think like the reason why sometimes people do that is just because they feel like, well, it's worthless now. I ruined my whole diet because I ate bad one day, and you know, it's not as bad as you think. But I guess the key would just to be get back on it ASAP, right? We're all human. We mess up. One day isn't going to drastically change your physique in the way you think it is, but don't let that cheat meal turn into a cheat week that turns into a cheat month, and next thing you know, you're 20 pounds up, right? Yeah. That's unhealthy. There's no doubt about it. That is unhealthy. But one day isn't going to hurt you that much, okay? You just got to be smart about things. And then also keep in mind too, and this is for another like mental reinsurance, is sometimes when we eat foods that we're not really used to having, right, that are saltier or higher in sugar, or even alcohol, it can cause a little bit of water retention the next few days. And a lot of people can think that that's fat. It's not. It's water retention. If you want to kind of briefly go into why this happens after eating foods we're not used to having, just for your own mental well-being. Yeah,
it's good for like the bodybuilding thing too.
Yeah.
Like, because people freak out about sodium content and they think that they should be eating low sodium or no sodium. I had a client that came from another coach who had her on no sodium for like her whole prep, which is, you know, like 16 weeks.
Why?
They just don't know, you know. They just don't know, and they don't pay attention. And so the first thing I had her do was get her electrolytes right and start adding electrolytes and adding sodium back into her food and all these different things. And so she was adding like added electrolytes. She's like, I feel so good. Like I can't believe I could feel like this. And I was like, yeah, your body needs this stuff, you know, like you're super low in all these things, like get it back in your system. And so she went through that initial water retention bump, you know, which was huge at first. But what happens is so your body has this way of balancing everything out and kind of getting used to. So you have your own settings, everyone has theirs. And the main reason for that is, let's say you live in a weird area like 200 years ago, and everything around you was super high in sodium. And Ashley lived somewhere 200 years ago where there was like an area where there was like very, very low sodium, right? Well, the body needs to retain a certain amount of water in both places, right? Maybe the area that has really, really high sodium, you know, maybe there's issues finding a good source of water and they retain more water. I don't know. And where Ashley is, it's like rivers and waterfalls and and it's low sodium. You live in a good place, and and she doesn't need to store as much, right, or whatever. So the body has found this way. I don't know the historic reasons for it, but this hormone called aldosterone, which basically regulates water retention, and it gets used to how much sodium you have. So it's okay. This is how much water we're going to retain. This is how much I'm used to retaining and how much sodium I'm used to eating. When you have a big meal in sodium, well, that hormone will say, oh man, I need to store more water. Okay, for some reason, it'll basically go off, you'll store more water. It'll be a few days before it regulates itself again and gets back to your normal setting of how much water, basically your homeostatic setting of water retention that you'll have. So you cutting sodium doesn't really change much. You know, for a day or two it might, you know, but at first your body's like, let's say you eat a ton of sodium, you eat like, let's say 7,000 milligrams of sodium a day, right, which is a good amount. Your body would get used to that over time. Now, if you were eating 1,000 milligrams of sodium at first, and then you had 7,000, let's say you had a pizza or you had a big...
Or a jar of pickles.
Jar of pickle or something, right?
I love that.
Then yes, the next day you're going to hold a little water because you had a lot more sodium than your body is used to. But whatever you're used to, I mean, I imagine there's a level. I imagine there has to be some level where there's, like, it can't get used to or something. But whatever your body's used to within norm, you're going to have the same amount of water retention whether you have like no sodium or you have that much sodium. But if you go more than that, then you're going to store more water. That's a very crude breakdown of how it would work. But yes.
Yeah. So don't freak out. Like, you know, even like if you have post-show and you have something with like a jar of pickles, I don't know. You don't freak out. It's water. There's no way you can possibly gain like that much weight within the span of 12 hours, right?
Yeah. Between
Between your dinner and the time you wake up, okay? But as far as like the sugar and alcohol as well, what do you think or if you want to kind of go into explain why you might also get a little bit of puffiness or retention from those items? I assume the same thing with the salt. Like if it's something you're just not used to having, your body's like, what the heck is this? Like, oh, retaining water and puffy and swollen. You know the deal. So, and sometimes that can be like with gluten or something that somebody hasn't had in a while as well.
Yeah. So you have your digestion issues from eating, like people eating higher amounts of gluten and stuff that they're not used to.
So there we
like
get distension.
Distension, you get, improper digestion for a few days, you get some backup, of not going to the bathroom as much for a couple days, That's with foods you haven't eaten or eating amounts more than you're normally used to. So eating more gluten, maybe you eat more dairy and you're not used to that. You eat a lot of cheese, you eat a lot of milk, whatever. That was where the digestion. So first you get your stomach goes out so you feel fatter, right? It's still in you because you're digesting and your body's taking a while with it, so you feel fatter, right? And then you get more amount of carbs than you've had before. So yeah, your glycogen is super full. Right?
Super full.
You're super full.
Almost going to explode.
You're going to explode.
Those little carbohydrates are hanging on to those hydrogens for dear life. Like, give me the hydrogens. Pulling in them hydrogens.
So they're in the muscle cells, they're in the liver, and then there's some that are outside the muscle cell and waiting to be absorbed, right? So when they're outside the muscle cell, they still have water attached to them, right? They still have water, so you're going to hold more water while they're waiting to be used, waiting to be absorbed. Or, before they're being stored as fat, whatever, right? Or maybe they're being stored as fat too.
Just chilling there.
Yeah, so it takes, that's going to take a few days for you to fully get rid of the water retention from the sodium, to absorb or use all the glucose, to get your stomach healthy again and digesting right again. You're going to have like the freak out after if you're doing things that you're not used to. And like, it could really freak you out because it could look like everything went away in like a meal,
Yep.
And it's highly unlikely that's going to happen. You just can't eat, like you could eat, I think you could eat, okay, let's be real. With crazy foods and let's say you just couldn't stop, I would say probably if you're really hungry and you're really able to, a guy, I would say you put on like 1.5 pounds, maybe 2 pounds of fat in one meal like that. If he really went for it, I'm talking like record-breaking stuff. And a girl, I would say maybe 1 pound of fat. Like you're talking 3,500 calories past all the calories that you burned that day in excess.
That's a lot of food.
That means that you'd have to eat like 6,000 calories, maybe, because you probably burned like 2,500 calories that day. We're talking, that's a lot of food. So 6,000 calories in a meal, I guess it's probably reachable, pretty realistically if you're doing like eggnog and stuff. So it's not going to, in the end, 1 pound, it's not going to hurt you that bad. Now, if you go and be one of these people that are just nonstop,
yes, that's
where it hurts. The next day,
that turns into a week, that turns into a month.
The leftovers, all that stuff. So yeah, it shouldn't hurt you that bad.
Leftovers get you, man.
And that's what I say with people who prep too. When they go bad for a week and they go on, like, let's say they go on vacation and they do the actual 5 pounds, 4 pounds of body fat because they're eating like that every day. That's where it really hurts because like what people don't think about in prep is that when they have their bad week, they're just like, oh, whatever, next week I'll be perfect. And I'm like, no, you don't get it. Like you gained, let's say 3 pounds on vacation. Let's just say 3 pounds, right, of actual fat. Well, now at 120 pounds, you're probably going to lose 1 to 1.5 pounds of fat a week. So it's going to take us, you lose the week of dieting that you were supposed to be in prep. So you lose that week of progress. The next week, you have to get 1 of those 3 pounds off. The next week, 1 of those 3 pounds off. The next week, 1 of those 3 pounds off. So now you're down 4 weeks just to get back to baseline before your vacation.
Oh, definitely.
And now you're doing it in a more adapted way because you've been dieting for 3 additional weeks.
Right.
So it's like, it's a lot bigger penalty than just jumping back on plan the next week.
Yeah, and I would say too is like you said, your body doesn't necessarily recognize time, so there could be some like leftover calories that really haven't been like absorbed or put into fat yet, but it's going to then kind of carry over into the next week, right? Depending on when you eat it, because it's not like 24 hours later, after eating 3,000 calorie surplus, I put on exactly 1 pound. It might take a little bit of time for that to show up, if you will. Is that a fair statement?
I think, if you're talking like digestion processes, some foods taking a little longer, like, yeah, and we're just talking digestion, but absorption and glycogen storage and all that too. Yeah, I don't know the time frame on how long that would have to take, but I imagine that you got a couple days there of like, one digestion of hard foods could take a really long time. And then you have your glycogen being stored, and then is that going to be used as energy or stored as fat? I mean, that could be a whole, that's a whole nother thing.
So even if you're perfect the next week, you might just kind of be, I guess, leveling out rather than expecting to lose.
I think it'd be
if that makes sense.
Somewhat of a faster process. But like, let's say you did it on the last day of your vacation, then you probably have like a day or two before you're like the new diet really could start. If you're talking about. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
The overflow of calories.
I wonder how that would work. I'm not positive on it. I would assume somewhere in that like 36-hour time frame type thing before you'd start that, right?
Right.
Yeah, I wonder. That's actually really cool. And yeah, I want to look into that because that's actually a pretty cool question. Like at what point? Let's say someone ate a stupid amount of calories on day 7 of their vacation, and then on day 8 they're like, "Oh, I'm going to start my diet now." Like how long does it actually take for those things to like not have their effect?
Yes.
Where your diet would start, because you got to deplete glycogen again. You got to like how much of it's still free floating, right?
Floating around in there.
Yeah, I'm
sure it's different for every person too. Like how much did you use of it, and it's probably hard, really almost impossible to tell. I'm sure.
That's pretty cool though. Nutrition science always evolving. That's why it's so cool.
It is cool. It is super cool. But I guess if you're gonna take anything away from this podcast is don't feel guilty for indulging for a day. Of course, make reasonable choices. We're not saying go into contest prep on day of Christmas or whatever. We're not the Grinches. But at the same time, there's such thing as self-control and knowing when to stop, and do not make that cheat meal turn into a cheat week. That is the most important thing to take away. Cheat meal, cut it off. After that, whatever, start fresh the next day. Don't be munching on those leftovers. Don't let it turn into a cheat week that turns into a cheat month.
Yeah. So with that, guys, we'll leave you here. We wish you guys a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, whatever you guys do. And we'll talk to you. Will we talk to them next year after this one?
No, I don't
we'll have
think
one more?
So.
One more? Okay, well, we'll talk to you.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll be in touch.
We'll be in touch.
Our people will call your people. Don't worry.
Talk to you guys later.